Have you ever had someone ask a question that's just, well, a little too personal or maybe completely inappropriate?
hmm And then you freeze because your automatic response is like, did I just hear that correctly? Or maybe you need to change the subject, or you even lie about it because why?
Right. So today we're going to give you four simple and polite responses you can use to protect your privacy without offending anyone while walking through our six-step process, communication process.
Quick shout out to our listener, Sarah Moreda, who wrote, clear and direct communication is something I've been working on. And this gave such helpful real life tips. Can't wait to hear more. Thank you, Sarah. If you're loving the show, please leave us a quick review. Please, please, please. It really helps.
Welcome to Communication Skills for Working Women. I'm Elizabeth.
And I'm Rose May. Do you find yourself second guessing or avoiding conversations because you're worried about being misunderstood?
You're not alone. On this show, we're sharing tangible tools for assertiveness, emotional resilience, and real life communication wins and fails.
Let's sharpen our communication together.
Personal questions can come out of nowhere. They can come up at work, they can come up at family gatherings, they can even come up in casual conversations.
And sometimes people don't mean to cross a line. They're just curious about things they really need to not express.
I would honestly, I feel like I've been that person before where I
Yeah,
have
of
asked
course.
that question and I've been the receiver of those questions before too. I feel like I've been both individuals,
I will agree with that too. And I've done that too. And as the words are coming out of my mouth, sometimes I'm like, "Oh yeah,
right?
shouldn't ask that." Yeah.
And sometimes it's because maybe I feel like I have a different relationship with that individual than they have with
Yeah.
me. Like
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, I feel close to them, but they don't necessarily feel close to me.
Mm-hmm.
And um, anyway, it's just can be interesting. So it's completely okay to keep things private. We don't have to share everything with everyone.
For sure. And I think that this extends itself not only to our social relationships, but family relationships. There
Hmm.
are choices that we make in our families that are not really anybody else's business. I mean, they're boundaries. And boundaries are not walls. They help us define our identities by creating a space and maybe even a distinct sense of self that separates us from others. I think this gets really tricky in families. Boundaries are crucial for protecting our physical, emotional, and mental well-being. And in doing so, we allow ourselves to know who we are and to give to others from a place of integrity rather than out of obligation or fear of losing yourself. You know what? I didn't think about this as we were talking in terms of family relationships, but I'm thinking now how many times a day I am talking about this specifically within family relationships. It happens in work relationships too, for sure, and social relationships, but most often in family relationships is where I hear a lot of the concern or tension when it comes to being able to keep things private, you
Right.
know?
Been talking about these upcoming episodes and different things, and I received a message from one of our listeners that I'm going to share with you. This individual said, I just went to the vet and I'm wearing this t-shirt that says, I don't have enough middle fingers for cancer. And the lady at the front desk says, oh, I couldn't agree more. Are you fighting cancer? I say, no, my wife. And she says, oh, I'm sorry to hear that. Can I ask what kind it is? And then that completely stunned me because that felt like such a personal question. And I really wasn't expecting it. And I just froze. And I did not want to tell her what kind of cancer it is because it's none of her damn business. And that felt really violating. So I just said, it's all over because I didn't want to not answer, but I also didn't want to give her an answer.
Ugh.
Anyway, just made me realize I don't have a problem with withholding information or not answering questions that I don't think are anybody else's business, but I also have a freeze response a lot of the times in situations like that. So I figured maybe if I had some answers in my back pocket that I've practiced, I can just hand them out instead of freezing. My response to this individual was, "Oh my goodness, we have this podcast already in the queue. Can I share the story?" And there's so many things in this story, in this message that is shared, that they wanted things in their back pocket just to go
Yeah.
to. And I loved how they said that they wanted to practice.
Yeah.
They said things that I've practiced. I'm like,
Yeah.
yes, that homework is important to just practice these skills. And then also something that I thought was interesting in this story was that this question felt very personal,
Yeah, because I would be the lady at the front desk.
right?
I probably wouldn't ask that because I wouldn't, but I know that I would be thinking that. Like, for
Right.
sure I would be thinking that. I don't know that I would be, yeah, I don't know what I, but I would for
Right.
sure be thinking that. So, I didn't realize, like, obviously this is very personal for them. I
Right.
would not think that that would be that personal to people because most people are pretty vocal about it. I
I,
shouldn't say most. A lot of the people I've run into have been really vocal about it.
I just think it's important to note that something can be very private and personal to you, and you can respond in a private and personal way, which we'll go
Yeah.
through here. And for someone else who's maybe asking a question, like to assume good intent
Mm-hmm.
and to honor yourself by putting up those by having those answers and not
Mm-hmm.
and keeping your boundaries, but then also the person that's asking the question that's maybe crossed that boundary, like give yourself some grace, like that we're going to say things that are too personal, or we're going to ask
Absolutely.
someone, we're going to push the line sometimes unintentionally.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's so many things to navigate on all sides of communication.
Yeah.
And so I love that this individual asked to have some things that they could practice, and that they were super clear on, like, I don't mind withholding information. I think that's okay. And they also realized they had a freeze response.
Mm-hmm.
And so just a lot of self-awareness in
Mm-hmm.
all of this. It's such a great story to think about on both ends.
Yes. Well, and just even thinking about this freeze response again, going back to conversations I have with people in family relationships, the freeze response is the most common response because I think people are torn. There's like these conflicting values or these conflicting ideas or feelings of like, I'm supposed to like be open with my family, but this is not something that I want to discuss with my family for many, many
Right.
reasons, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so I find that the freeze response is the most common response, and then people end up answering out for other reasons that we'll go through as we go through our six
Right.
step framework. But yes, such a very, very common response.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm excited. Let's get through. Let's start the 6-step framework, and we will get to those answers that we will have in the back pocket in the framework.
Quick pause. We've got something exciting for you. We're taking a select few individuals for our brand new communication skills workshop to help you get clear, confident, and improve those communication skills so you can thrive at work and at home.
We are only taking a small group through this first round, and it's at a deeply discounted price. You will never ever see this price again. This means you'll save money, get our focused attention to help you break free from the patterns that keep you stuck, and finally communicate with confidence and authenticity.
Spots are limited, so apply now through the link in the show notes. Step one is get clear on the goal. What is the goal? I want to respond to personal questions in a way that protects my privacy while maintaining respect and connection. That is what it sounded like to me in that example of that person,
Mm-hmm.
right? And just thinking even about the culture of walking to a front desk, right? I don't think our intention is ever to be rude or condescending or impolite to people at the front desk, of any situation, right? So that
Right.
respect and connection, especially for whatever they're going into, like the vet with their pets, right? That's really important. Yeah.
Yeah. And getting clear on that goal, knowing this really helps us in how we want to show up rather than just reacting in the moment. And so it does take some forethought sometimes, especially when you're going through something difficult.
Mm-hmm.
like you're just caught off guard often. And so
Hmm.
when you have some intentionality, and it doesn't take a lot of time, it's that taking that deep breath. In a future episode, we're going to talk about, we will talk about doorways at some point where, you get in your car and you take a deep breath and you're like, okay, how do I want to show up in
Yeah.
this next thing? Even before I leave my room, I'm like, how do I want to show up when I walk out of this room? So getting really clear is important.
Step two is to evaluate your current actions. What are you doing right now that's not helping you meet that goal?
Okay, so some people may overshare because they just feel pressured. Like you said, Rose, in families, sometimes maybe we
Hmm.
overshare, or even at work, we want to be a collaborative employee. And so we're going to
Hmm.
share all the things.
Yeah.
There's oversharing can happen. I mean, it can happen in the grocery store aisle too.
Hey, that's true. Sometimes, speaking of the grocery aisle, avoiding the person or changing the subject abruptly. I'm not gonna lie, y'all heard this in other episodes. I avoid people all the time. Avoiding the person or changing the subject abruptly, right? Like just moving really quickly, um, and just completely talking about something totally different, right?
Hmm.
Not really helping you show up in the way that you want to show up in that moment.
Right. And then there's also freezing, laughing it off, or feeling uncomfortable afterward. And these are just a few examples of things that we could be doing that's not meeting our ultimate goal of responding to personal questions in a way that protects our privacy and still maintains respect and connection. So there could be a whole list of other actions that we take as well, but here's
Hmm.
just a few that
Yeah.
aren't helping us, maybe.
Step three is identifying your worries. What fears are coming up for you? And there can be a myriad of fears depending on
Hmm.
the situation. I don't
Right.
know exactly what your friend was experiencing, right? But yeah, I'd be actually interested to know, and maybe that's none of my business. But what fears are coming up for you in this situation?
Right. So let's talk about some general fears that show up for people. They'll think that I'm rude. That's a general fear that people
Hmm.
have.
Yeah. Or it will make things awkward if I don't answer, which in some situations it probably can.
Yeah. Another fear can be is that like the individual will push even harder. Like if I put
Hmm.
up a wall or not a wall. Oh, that's a revealing statement. If I put up a boundary or if I am clear in that I'm not going to say something, they're going to push even harder, which
With
I've experienced that before.
Oh yeah, again, I was going to say this is definitely a possibility.
Mhm.
And that's fine. It may actually happen. They might even push harder, but we can practice some things and go through the rest of this to help us move past that. So naming these will help us see what's really in the way of us being able to speak and reach that communication goal.
So, step four is our hidden commitments. So, this is where our worries really come to life.
Hmm.
So, this is just the interesting one of just revealing how actually committed we are to our worries instead of our goal of, I want to respond to personal questions in a way that protects my privacy and maintains respect and connection. So, let's hear what some of these hidden commitments could show up as.
Right. And sometimes these hidden commitments show up as, like you said, Elizabeth, unspoken rules, right? I have to be, in the example that I'm thinking of very specifically, one of the unspoken rules is like, we are loyal to our family. And being loyal
Hmm.
to our family is answering every question
Yes.
that our parents or siblings ask. I have to answer every question. That is something that I hear quite often. I also hear in some families that, like, our families are how do I say this? Our families are our best friends. Our family members are our
Mm.
best friends, and we're supposed to be sharing everything, right,
Yeah.
with our family. So that's an unspoken rule, or maybe even a spoken rule. I'm supposed to share everything with my family members, right?
Right. Another thing, a hidden commitment could be it's my job to keep the conversation comfortable for them. So, this you may find at work, in families, with someone at a front desk where you're just like, oh, well, this underlying hidden commitment is, oh, I need to keep this comfortable. If I say these
Hmm.
other things, it might go to uncomfortable, and I don't want them to feel uncomfortable. So, that could
Right.
also be a hidden commitment, is
Right.
maintaining comfort for other people.
And these hidden commitments are exactly what keep us from setting healthy boundaries, right? If the expectation is that we're making things comfortable for other people, I just want to highlight that while we're doing that, we're making things extremely uncomfortable for ourselves,
Right.
right? And probably for others around us, right?
Mm.
I think we've all been in a situation where we know someone probably doesn't want to answer a question that has been
Yeah.
asked, and it's so incredibly uncomfortable for everyone else, right? So perhaps the hidden rule is I've got to keep everybody comfortable, you know.
Hmm. Yes. Now let's get to the fun part, the experiment.
Here are four polite responses you can use when you want to keep things private. So we're using these four responses from Ruth, your speech strategist. The first one is, I prefer to keep that personal for now. Thank you for respecting that. Number
I love
two,
that.
yeah, me too. I understand your curiosity, but I'm not comfortable discussing that. I think I've said a version of that before. And I think that this is really great at acknowledging someone's curiosity, right?
Hmm.
And also setting the limits for yourself. Number three is that's not something I'm ready to share, but I'm happy to focus on X, Y, and Z, right? Something that might be related. I think that's a really great way of, again, like asserting your boundary and recognizing too, like here, I want to say, like sometimes you are going to get pushback, especially from family members, right? I think that when we go back to the clarity of our goals and our values, what's important to us, we can make that decision to continue with some of these phrases in the face of that discomfort. And number four is I'd like to keep that private for now, but I'm more than happy to talk about, X, Y, and Z, whatever that may be.
One of the things that I really like about these four phrases is they're really all saying the same thing, but they all kind of have a different almost personality to them or
Mm-hmm,
tone to
mm-hmm,
them. And so
mm-hmm,
you can really kind of figure out what feels good to you, what resonates
mm-hmm,
with you, and what
mm-hmm.
sounds natural to you. And I love that our listener said that they wanted to practice these things because
Yeah.
you can practice. Do a voice recording in your phone. Look in the mirror and practice these four phrases and figure out what feels natural. And then when you're in these situations, they will come up and you will remember that sounds like, or that's something I'm not ready to share, but I'm happy to focus on. Okay, I would actually not say that. I would say, I understand your curiosity, but I'm not comfortable discussing that yet.
Yeah. Let's see. I don't know that I would say. Well, it depends on the situation. And I think that it's
Yeah,
important to match the tone to the situation, right? Maybe more
that's true.
formal for work, warmer if it's for friends. Normally, I find myself in most situations saying, yeah, I'm not going to talk about that. I've said that
Right,
before. But mostly it's because I'm like, I don't really. There are some situations where I just don't really care about being polite and I don't have the energy to soften my tone. I just don't want to talk to you about it. And I'm okay with
right.
saying, like, I don't want to talk about that. I don't. And I
I
won't.
mean, and I think that's okay too. Getting yourself to the point where you can set that boundary and just say it however you need to say
However,
it,
yes.
I think is really important.
Yeah.
And it does, when you are clear on that, I want to respond to personal questions in a way that protects my privacy while
Hmm.
maintaining respect and connection. When you are doing it in a way that is natural to you, it is going to maintain respect and connection.
Yes.
When you're
Yes.
pretending,
Yeah.
that doesn't feel good. But if you're just saying, I'm not going to talk about that right now,
Yeah.
but that's like who you are, and you're not saying, I'm not going to talk about that right now, you idiot. Like, in there, you're just saying, you know what? I'm not going to talk about that right now. You're like,
Yeah.
oh, okay.
Yeah. And
Like,
and that is authentic to me. Like anybody who knows me, I think that probably wouldn't come as a surprise that that
right,
came out of my mouth, you know.
right.
Yeah.
I really do like this. I understand you're curious or I understand your curiosity. I feel like that's validating
Sure.
and I'm just not comfortable discussing that right now. I feel
Yeah.
like that is like this open door of like we could talk about it later,
Yeah.
To me, that's how that one feels.
Right. And now that you say that, I actually think that I have said something along the lines of like, "Oh yeah, I could see why that would be interesting to you."
Yeah.
Yeah, I've said that before. Yeah, or I've said the reverse. I'm like, "Yeah, I don't really want to talk. I'm not going to really talk about that now, but I can see how that would be interesting to you." I think that's more
Yeah.
along the lines of what I've said. Yeah.
And that's, yeah. See,
Yeah.
and play with it. Like, try
Yeah.
it out. What feels good to you? Like, I even do like this first one too. I prefer to keep that personal for now, but thank you so much for respecting, not but.
Yeah.
I prefer to keep that personal right now. Thanks so much for respecting that. I really appreciate that. And
Yeah.
then you're not shutting them down, but you're letting them know, like, I'm serious. Like,
Yeah.
I'm not gonna take any pushback. So
Yeah.
thanks for respecting that.
Yeah. The final step is to collect your data and move forward. So try one of these responses in real life and then reflect objectively. Remember, we're trying to reflect objectively. What actually happened? How did they respond? And how did you feel afterward? And it's okay that it's not sunshine and rainbows after you say
Mhm.
this. Sometimes this catches people off guard, especially if the rules are established that we behave in a certain way, and this is
Mhm.
contrary to those rules, right? So recognize there's going to be discomfort, right? There's going to be perhaps like a silence, right?
Yeah.
It's okay to observe all of that without judgment, right?
Mhm.
Just recognizing that that happened. What's most important is are you living in alignment with that goal that you set in step number one?
Mhm.
The more you practice, the more that alignment will feel natural and you will feel confident in being aligned with that goal. Because the
Right.
opposite is that, I mean, the alternative is that you walk away and you're kicking yourself in the pants. You're wondering why you're not speaking up. You're wondering why you're not showing up the way that you want to show up. And that's a really defeating and deflating feeling.
Right. Most of the time, people respect the boundaries that come up.
Hmm.
So it's really interesting when you are doing these experiments and you are actually reflecting on it to realize like, oh, this is actually getting easier. I'm getting more
Hmm.
clear and this is getting easier. And remember, we gave you these like four tips, right? Like, here's four ways you can address this situation. And it's also important to remember that you are in the middle of an adaptive change, meaning the changes you're trying to make aren't, these aren't four magic phrases that are going to change everything.
Hmm.
You have to figure out, what are your hidden commitments? What am I doing that is working against this goal? And then what changes do I need to make to actually move forward? Give yourself some time to practice these things and address the other things that are coming up for you as well.
For sure. And just as it gets easier for you, right? It might be a little bit uncomfortable. Well, be plenty uncomfortable if this is something that you aren't accustomed to. It also, over time, gets easier for other people. So it's also going to be very difficult for other people. Here's your homework for this week.
Pick one of the four phrases and practice it out loud and use it the next time someone asks you something that's just a little too personal.
Then reflect on the outcome. No guilt, just information. I am willing to bet that this brings up a lot of feelings or a lot of I would say like other hidden commitments that we may have in our lives. And so I think it would be really important to work this out with the therapist and just being able to recognize some of those things and kind of deal with the emotional part of the attachments that we have to some of these hidden commitments. I would highly encourage that. I think that if a person can move into that space and making that adaptive change, that other areas in your life when you're working with a therapist can actually open up and your goals, your hidden commitments, you can expand this practice to other areas of your life, is what I'm
Mhm.
trying to say.
So, do you want to identify your skill gaps or what's really holding you back from reaching your communication goals? Apply to our beta communication skills workshop. You'll walk away with clarity and confidence in your communication moving forward.
Make sure you don't miss out and connect with us on Facebook at Develop Confidence in Relationships Through Effective Communication Skills or Instagram at Communication Skills for Women. We love your comments. You can also email us at communicationskillsforwomen@gmail.com or check out our website at communicateconnectthrive.com. Until next time, people, speak clearly and listen bravely. When you feel confident in your communication, everything changes.
We'd love to hear your wins, failures, and insights on Instagram at Communication Skills for Women. Leave a review and connect with us.
Until next time, speak clearly and listen bravely.